Did you know that this game isn't the actual sequel to Mario Strikers Charged? It's actually a game that's called not Mario Strikers, but Super Mario Spikers. A game that combined Mario, volleyball, wrestling, and a game show all into one, but was eventually cancelled? What? So today, I want to go over everything we know about this cancelled game and look at all the assets and concepts that were completed. Then, we'll take a look at why this game was cancelled in the first place, even with this solid foundation and interesting ideas to go along with it. Because the reason for this does make sense, but really doesn't at the same time, so I'll get into that later. But it didn't always start out as Mario Spikers, because it was actually first called Mario Volleyball. So after 2 games of soccer in Mario Strikers, it seemed like they wanted to try and tackle the sport of volleyball now. Well, it's like half of volleyball because this game was supposed to combine volleyball and wrestling into one sport. Now this does sound weird, but it actually makes sense when you look at the developer working on this project, which was Next Level Games. So basically, they wanted to take their knowledge from the previous Mario Strikers games they worked on, and combine that with their experience in creating wrestling games with their previous game, WWE Titans Parts Unknown. That was, also cancelled. Really? Another cancelled game from these guys? What, do the higher-ups not like their ideas or something? Well, regardless, that was Next Level Games' reason for the idea of this new game, Mario Volleyball. So let's take a look at what they had actually created for this project, because what is here is very interesting. Before we look at the actual unused animations for this game though, let's look at some of the concept art first of what this game would have looked like. And I gotta say, for the last image we're looking at here, I have a pretty interesting theory as to what I think it was gonna be used for. But first, let's start off with a few different designs for what Mario's outfit would have looked like. The first one is this like sleeveless wrestling suit with knee pads and these exaggerated gloves on the hands. The only difference with the picture on the right is the helmet he's wearing that honestly looks a lot like Mario's helmet in Battle League. So maybe they actually used that design from this concept all the way back then, since the same developer made both games. And then the other suit here is a pretty similar design to the last one, just a bit more basic, and going for a much whiter color scheme. But now let's look at some of the stadium concepts for this game. First, there's this one that looks to be, you know, the basic stadium here. Not that it looks basic, it looks pretty awesome, it just has that starter stadium vibe, going for a more typical wrestling theme. But this does show the potential energy that might have been in this game. These matches look to be like huge events, with massive crowds, fireworks in the sky, and competitors on the big screen. It seemed to have the same energy that was also present in the Strikers games. Then we got these 2 stadiums that seem pretty similar. Now, I'm not sure if one is the updated design of the other, or these are just 2 separate stadiums with similar features. Obviously, they both have this whole game show vibe to it, with this whole bright and flashy Mario Spikers logo in the middle, plus a whole live audience and film crew on the side. Now this could have been some weird stadium with like a number gimmick with this roulette wheel and giant numbers everywhere, or maybe it could just be the venue for some sort of extra party mode too. Moving on though to this dark and creepy stadium here on this tiny patch of land with thunderstorms in the background. This really reminds me of, you know, that cliff field in Mario Strikers Charged. It's the exact same vibe here. And I really like the variety of venues that this game would have had. They're not just all upbeat and energetic stadiums, but some seem more unsettling. And continuing with that is this last stadium here that has even more of a dark and creepy vibe, with this nighttime setting and fog everywhere. This place I could see as being some sort of boss level in the game. And then the last image here is probably the most out of place concept art too, and it's this one of this random island. There's no real indication of what this area could be used for. This does kind of remind me of Donkey Kong Island, but I think it's an original area they created for this game. Now, I have two ideas as to what I think this was intended to be used for. Firstly, I could see this as like the area for the single player adventure. Like maybe you crash onto this island or something, then start in this little town village here, and then you slowly have to climb up to the top of this mountain while playing many teams in volleyball, which is kind of indicated by this large staircase here. And there are various structures all over the island that could be the other volleyball courts. This also makes a lot of sense when you go back to some of the other concept art too. Like this court specifically, like I said before, does this not only look like the place where the final boss would take place, but it also looks like it's on top of a mountain. I mean, it's got the whole spiraling clouds in the sky that highlight the moon, and then it looks to be at the top of a point or something, indicated by the cliff sides all around it. And then these 3, potentially 4 statues here just remind me almost of like tiki heads or some other island sculpture in the rocks here. And then if we continue on with this theory, that is, the island is used for adventure mode, then I could see the creepy beach place be somewhere here on the map. Then maybe the 2 casino levels are in this big structure way up here. And then finally, the first Mario Stadium could be behind this building or a part of it, as it looks like the main place on this island here, and these structures kind of look like the seating from the stadium. Now this all might be a bit of a stretch, but we don't have much to work off anyways. So I could see that being the case, or maybe a more modest idea here, where this island is just like a menu, much like Donkey Kong Country Returns, and how you cycle around that island to choose the different levels. So this could be something like that, with the previously mentioned different stadiums being in different parts of the map. So those were all the concept art that was available for this game. And now I want to take a look at all the unused animations and character models that had also been planned out. Well, in all honesty, there isn't that much available here, but some of the animations do show quite a bit of character in this game. You first got Yoshi and Shy Guy jumping up here to smack the volleyball, and I like how Shy Guy just kind of flops over once he finished his hit. There's also a hit animation for Waluigi that I like, how he just jumps up and flutters his legs a bit before hitting, and then sticks the landing in a very fashionable way. But then we also got a few animations for the wrestling part of this game, and they seem pretty cool too. Waluigi is literally just jumping on Mario's lifeless body. Jeez, this game looked to be as brutal as the Strikers games. And then this last animation here is Yoshi just spinning the other Yoshi around, jumping up and then throwing him to the ground. This is hilarious and the funniest one for sure. Imagine all the other Mario characters doing this move. Oh, would have loved to see that. And with all these animations, I'm really curious as to how the volleyball and wrestling mechanics would have worked together. Because with wrestling, you need to be close to your opponents. I mean, obviously, right? That's the whole point. But volleyball is the opposite, where the players are separated by the net. Not really sure how you'd wrestle that way. So I'm interested in how they would have handled this. Now all of this stuff looks really cool to me, and it seemed like it was gonna shape up into a very creative game. So then why was this thing cancelled? Well, when Next Level Games finally got to pitching this concept to Nintendo, they ultimately rejected their idea, canceling this game in the process. And Nintendo's reason behind this is that having these Mario characters perform realistic wrestling moves would go against the wholesome content which Nintendo said was the standard of the Mario franchise. And they even stated the violence was too realistic as the reason, which is unlike the more cartoony violence in some Mario crossovers like the fighting game Smash Bros. And okay, I get it, Nintendo. At first glance, that actually does make sense. I mean, it would be very off-putting to see this in a Mario game. But at the same time, I don't really see where you're coming from. I mean, did you see what they put in the previous entries of Mario Strikers? You allowed this in your Mario game, or this made it in the cut? Or if we're talking about wholesome content in Mario here, well, how about let's listen to the wholesome screams of pain from characters being electrocuted in Strikers 2? But now you guys draw the line, eh? I mean, could you have not just said to them, like, Hey guys, can we tone down the wrestling moves just a bit? Kids are playing here. Instead of just outright canning the project, just look at how cool all these concept photos are for this game. It looks like it would have had the same charm and vibes as the Strikers games. I have to see this finally being made now. But the kicker to this story is that after Nintendo had canceled this game's development, they sent Next Level Games to work on another game for Nintendo. And do you know what that game was? Punch-Out for the Nintendo Wii. So wrestling's a no-go, but boxing is totally fine? Sure, whatever. This is one wholesome, unrealistic, family-friendly, non-violent game, right? Yeah, I know it's not a part of the Mario franchise, but still. How crazy is it that they cancel the wrestling game for being too violent, and then tell the same team to make a boxing game instead? Well, maybe in a parallel universe, this game did see the light of day, but in our reality, I guess Super Mario Spikers will just be a weird piece of Nintendo history.